Mark here again, cooking books, bringing information. So I want to discuss some quantum mechanics. And the reason why I want to talk about quantum mechanics is this, folks, real quick. Sometimes in life you feel helpless. You feel as if you've reached the end of your wits. You feel as if intelligence and intellect has its limitations, which in effect it does. And when you're at that road, the end of that intellectual road where your wits ends, and you feel as if you don't know what to do, what direction to go in, where to turn. From the church world, would say trust in God. Coming from a church perspective, from a theologian perspective, they would say this is where you got to look to God. And I'm all for that. I support that 100%. I also want to look at it from the scientist world, from the physicist perspective. And from the physicist perspective, I want to say that quantum mechanics teaches us this, that we have invisible tools at our disposal. When your intellect, when your wits have reached their limitations, you have to trust in these scientific laws. That quantum mechanics teaches us that we have, again, invisible subatomic particles that are working on our behalf. And we can activate these invisible tools or apparatus, so to speak, scientific apparatus, by being conscious of them. That's it. Your job is solely to be aware that you have invisible, naked to the eye instruments that are always at your disposal. And an example is matter. Matter can be manipulated. I did a video where we talked about the observer effect. By observing matter, you alter matter. Matter will work in your favor or against you, depending on your frame of reference, your mindset. So if we're aware that we have these invisible forces, you know, and this doesn't contradict the Bible. In Hebrews, I don't recall the exact chapter, but in the book of Hebrews, it says that the things that we see, the physical things that we can see, were made by things that are invisible. So right there, Paul is telling you that we do have invisible stuff that we can utilize to manifest the things that we need in our lives. But if you are not aware of this, then you are left to the whims of fortune, or misfortune in this case. You are left to the capricious, whimsical ups and downs of misfortune. So the word subconscious means that there are things that are happening to us, around us, through us, in us, and by us, and we don't know about it. Hence the prefix, I believe, the prefix sub. It's below your consciousness. So the goal is to become conscious, and not sub, but conscious of these invisible instruments that are constantly 365 days of the year, 24/7, 52 weeks. They're always there. We always have them at our disposal. But to utilize these tools, you can't use your hands. You can't use anything physical. You have to use the consciousness, your consciousness, the faculty, your mental faculties. You have to exercise your mental faculties. You have to raise your vibrational frequency. You have to raise your awareness. And again, most of it, 90% of your ability to utilize these instruments is awareness, being aware that they are there. And I know I don't want to sound spooky and woo-woo, but this is scientifically proven. So this is not spooky science or any kind of woo-woo teaching. It is scientifically proven, empirical data, research upon top of research. We've been told this time and time again. Go back and study Einstein. Go back and study Galileo. Go back and study Newtonian physics. Read about these great minds that have left trails for us, left tracks and crumbs for us to follow, that leads to where I am right now with this information that I am talking about. So there is data to back this up. And I know if you come from it from a theologian or theological, a lot of people, you know, this is where they put up a defense mechanism and call you cuckoo and crazy and woo-woo and, you know, nonsensical. But if I can bring it to you in a more rational, a more reasonable, something that is attractive and appealing to the reason, you know, as opposed to appealing to the spirit, then maybe then and then only you will receive and understand and acknowledge that there are again empirical evidence that backs up the principles that we do have invisible tools, and we can utilize these tools. But to utilize these tools, it's very complex and dense, because you're going to be forced to do things that you are not accustomed or invenerated to. You haven't been invenerated or accustomed or acclimated to this lifestyle or this way of dealing with problems, situations, and problem solving skills. This is a whole fifth dimensional skill set. This is not something you sit in college and have been taught. So when you start to understand the sciences, you know, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement, quantum theory, you know, thermodynamics, closed and open systems, the laws, when you start understanding these laws and implementing these laws through and only through the faculties of the mind, you start to exercise parts of the brain that you have been neglecting or have laid dormant, latent, and inactive for as long as you've been alive. You know, when you start understanding that the reticular activating system, which is a primitive part of your brain, which filters information, and when it filters the information, it scans your surrounding to find opportunities for the information that it filters. So if I start to monitor what I allow to come into my mind, which is what the RAS, the reticular activating system does, it filters the information and stores what it agrees with. This is what the brain does unwittingly to you. And when it stores that information that it agrees with, it then does this on its own. It serves as a reconnaissance type thing. It searches, it seeks, and finds opportunities to match that information that you've stored. So if you've stored the information that you want to be a millionaire, that you have these goals and your ambitions are stored, your RAS, your reticular activating system, which is the brain, part of the brain, is going to seek out the opportunities in the environment to manifest whatever you've stored in it. And see, just that information alone, being aware of that alone, is 90% of your success ratio. Maybe not 90, maybe 80. Maybe I'm stretching a bit, but you get my point. So when there's parts of when we are aware of the software of our brain and the hardware of our brain, and when we start to activate, to tap into these parts of our minds that most of us are not even aware of, that, you know, then we can start to activate the invisible tools. Okay, and these invisible tools, again, are material. They are actual material. It's called matter, and matter is called atoms, and atoms is called subatomic, and subatomic is protons and quarks and electrons and neutrons. And now I don't want to confuse you, but these are this is the breakdown of the stuff, the invisible stuff. This is the breakdown. You can research this. It's actually something called quarks. It's something called strong force, weak force. These are 4 fundamental forces in the universe: strong, weak, electromagnetic, and gravitational force. And when you understand these forces, then you can implement them for your betterment. But again, it takes a lot of study and a lot of research and time, practice, and patience. And you have to be pragmatic and practical in all sense. So hopefully some of this information can be utilized. Hopefully you can take a bit of it, add it to your repertoire, and make yourself better. Until next time, peace.